Egypt, we suffered the most out of this publishing in the publishing scene because, as you know, the Arab world, we depend mainly on book fairs to sell your book. That's the biggest event, and I would say one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the Arab world in terms of sales comes in the Cairo International Book Fair. So, and it was due to start on the 29th of January. And the resolution as you know started 25th, and the government said there is nothing, everything's going to be fine, and the president is coming to attend and also inaugurate the book fair. So actually we had our book on stand when the resolution started on Friday, 28th. So it was a big hit for us and even for the Arab countries because they all sent their books and things were stacked maybe for many months. In Egypt, they could not even get it back or anything. So that affected the whole, if you want to say the cycle that we do, our yearly cycle, because you depend on getting a lot of money in January and February that helps you republish again for the next year. So I was asking publishers before I talk about the conditions they are planning to do. We all agree that we're not stopping, but we're cutting our publishing plan in half. We can't do the whole thing because it is not world-class year. But I mean, as Bashar was saying, things are they're starting to move down a little bit. There is this problem of Arab world, yes, they don't want the book sometimes about evolution. Maybe I have a small story of a small success story of mine. After the night that the president stepped down, I decided that there was a very strange thing about the Arab, the Egyptian revolution specifically. And all the time during the revolution, and this is why I got to these photos to see how it is, there was even in these very dark times, there was a sense of humor, an Egyptian sense of humor going between us in Egypt. And it was very strange for me to find that people in this hard time and they still can joke, when they say a shout out, they say it in a very funny way, in a very dramatic way. So I wanted to capture this. I did this very small book. It's called Shabi, what people want, which was the main shout out during the revolution. And I captured it. It sold 3 editions up to now, which is around 5,000 copies, and that's not little. I mean, internationally that might be not that much, but in Egypt and the Arab world, that's very good in 6 months in these conditions to sell that much. And it's impossible to translate, so I'm not promoting this book by any means, because it has a sense of humor that is very hard to translate. But I mean, we had some success stories like that, and then we had a lot of books talking about the revolution. As Bashar was saying, some of them are just people trying to write anything to catch the wave, as they say, but some are very successful. But in general, things will have to reach to a point where the problem is you have to sell to government, and they need money to be put in the system. So we start working on, and that's in our case in the countries of the revolution stopped. But hopefully in the Gulf or in other countries that don't have, still have this option. And you sell for individuals and bookstores, and this depends on the market itself. And from my survey to the bookstores, things are really going slow these days. But again, if we want to talk before the revolution, there was, at least in Egypt and I think in the Arab world as well, there was a very rise in readership in general, which was very promising and made publishers, I think of it the other way around, that when there is the demand, people try to supply it in the right way. I mean, before that, the Arab reader didn't care for the looks of the book, the paper that the book is made of. They only maybe looked for the price and the author. Now, no, if a book has a good cover, they will buy it. If it has a content, they will buy it. If it has a name of a famous author that's translated from, they will buy it. So these became factors affecting us. So we, as publishers, are starting to learn, and this is maybe why I got involved in training of publishers, so they would know the right way to do this. They would know that to do a cover, you have to study your target group, you have to know who you're giving this book to, what price fits, what colors they like, the layout, what's best used, and stuff like that. So this reached a very good development in the market, and it can be seen in any publisher. In his backlist, you can see the covers and the looks of the book, and then now, how it's working. So by this, maybe the market is opening up more for us.
Thank you. As we have a mostly international audience here, you just mentioned that there was a rise in readership before the revolution, and I think there was also a rise in rights trading before the revolution, and there are quite a number of projects and initiatives to support rights trade. For instance, in the book fair, there's a Spotlight on Rights program, and other book fairs and other initiatives have these as well. So how has the international, or the business of international publishers in the region changed after the revolution? And maybe you can also tell us a little bit about what has happened to the rights side.
Well, recently also, as we said, there is an increase in readership, and I would say the milestone for this, the RPM building for Alaa Aswani. This book really started the concept of a bestseller. There is now something called bestseller. You have to understand when you're speaking about the Arab market, there are many concepts that are known worldwide. They don't exist, but they are not well established in the market, and maybe established at some publishing houses. For instance, bestseller, this is a new concept that's working now, and it's a way to push books to, even sometimes bookstores put books that are not selling to make them sell in the bestsellers list. The concept of an editor in a publishing house and a reader and a scout. A reader and a scout almost doesn't exist, but an editor exists in few publishing houses, because usually you get the book and you publish it as is, you don't edit, which is a big problem. But now, as publishers recognizing the importance of this, especially with translation, the known editing is for grammar and spelling mistakes, not for the way of writing. So this also is changing, and when we change these things, now we're approaching more, or we're getting to the young readers, and those are the potential market for us. So now, as this is growing, you find that you need, there are some subjects are not covered in the Arab world. So publishers would go either for the bestsellers list of the international market, or for covering certain topics or subjects that they think it does not exist in the Arab world, we don't write about, and they translate it. Of course, the problem with translation comes from the publishing side, that it adds a lot to the cost of the book. If I'm doing an Egyptian writer, probably either I won't pay an advance for the writer, or I'll pay a very small sum of advance. If I'm doing an international book, that means that I have to pay either an advance, and then royalties and translation. So that adds to the cost, and that's one of the reasons that people were not paying or were not buying rights. They either take it like piracy, or and they give it to any small translator, because it really adds to the cost, the end cost of the book. But with these initiatives that Claudia was talking about, it helped a lot to push people. For instance, for me, I would say that many of these initiatives helped me to take risks. Maybe I think that this book is very strange, how can I translate such a title? It's not known. But then it gives me courage to take this. I'm having a book now in translation. It's called About the History of Running. Who would want to read a book in the Arab world about the history of running? But yet, because of external help, that helped me really. Why not? Let's try and see. Does the Arab market really need to know about this or not? I will see. It's in the process now, and we'll see. And it's an interesting thing. But this fixed cost, or at least the hard cost discovered, gives me an initiative to do this. And that's, I think, what the initiative is all about, to help promoting this.